They'll always suffer. Why narcissists struggle to overcome the pain of losing you. Have you ever wondered what happens when a narcissist loses their most prized source of admiration and validation? The truth is, they don't just move on easily. They never really get over it. In fact, when a narcissist loses someone they once controlled or admired, the pain they experience is much deeper and more profound than they would ever let on. The illusion of invincibility they project can't hide the emptiness they feel when they lose someone like you, someone who once fed their ego in ways they never realized. So, what happens when a narcissist faces this pain? Let's uncover the truth that's often hidden behind their mask of arrogance. In this video, we're going to dive deep into why narcissists struggle so much to overcome the pain of losing someone like you. You might have thought that they were capable of just replacing you or moving on without a second thought, but the reality is far more complicated and painful for them. Stick around until the end of this video to understand how their inability to cope with loss leads to a cycle of destruction for both themselves and everyone around them. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and share it with others who may be dealing with narcissists. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on the full picture of what really happens when a narcissist loses someone they rely on. Now let's get into it. When you first come across a narcissist, they often present themselves as highly confident, almost invincible. This image of self-assurance is a carefully crafted facade, a shield they use to protect themselves from the vulnerability they fear so deeply. Behind this mask of confidence, however, lies someone who is incredibly fragile and insecure. The narcissist's entire identity is built on a constant need for external admiration, approval, and validation. They rely on the praise and attention of others to fuel their ego because, deep down, they struggle with feelings of inadequacy and a belief that they are not good enough on their own. This becomes an unrelenting cycle of seeking validation from others, but no matter how much they receive, it never seems to truly satisfy the emptiness inside them. This cycle leaves them feeling perpetually unfulfilled, always chasing after something that will never completely fill the void. When you enter their life and provide the validation they crave, you become incredibly valuable to them. You are the person who sustains their fragile sense of self-worth. You reinforce their self-image and give them the affirmation they need to feel powerful and secure. But what happens when you are no longer there? When you walk away, the narcissist may try to act as though it's no big deal, but beneath their indifference, there is a storm of turmoil and distress. The person they relied on for their sense of self has left, and this causes them a deep emotional upheaval. Their source of self-esteem, the validation they needed from you, has disappeared, leaving them feeling utterly adrift. This loss isn't just a matter of ending a relationship. It's the loss of their primary source of emotional support and ego reinforcement. Without you, they are left with a profound sense of emptiness that they can't easily recover from, and this emptiness gnaws at them relentlessly. For the narcissist, this loss goes far beyond the personal hurt of losing someone close to them. It's a blow to their very sense of self. They have never learned how to validate themselves from within, which means they are wholly dependent on external sources to feel valuable. You are their anchor, the person who made them feel important, validated, and loved in the way they needed. But now, without you, they feel lost at sea, floating aimlessly with no clear direction. This type of pain is unlike anything they have experienced, and although they would never admit it, it cuts them deeply. To acknowledge their pain would mean exposing the vulnerability they have worked so hard to conceal, and it would threaten the carefully constructed image they have built of themselves as all-powerful and untouchable. Their sense of self is fragile, and admitting to their emotional devastation would shatter that illusion. The core of this emotional struggle is the narcissist's intense fear of abandonment. This fear runs deep, and it is one of their most primal and powerful fears. The thought of being abandoned, of being left alone, is terrifying to them because, deep down, they have a deep-seated belief that they are unworthy of love, connection, or genuine emotional intimacy. To the narcissist, love is not a pure, selfless bond, but rather a transactional experience. They offer love or affection in the form of attention, admiration, or superficial gestures, but they expect something in return. Their version of love is based on getting validation, praise, or control, and when you walk away, it forces them to confront the harsh reality that the relationship was not based on mutual affection or shared emotional connection. It was built on their need for validation and their desire to feel superior. When they lose you, the narcissist is forced to face the painful truth that they are not as invincible as they want everyone to believe. The emotional damage from this realization is significant because it exposes their deepest vulnerability, and that is something they are unprepared to deal with. The narcissist doesn't know how to handle the emotional fallout of someone leaving them because they've never learned to self-soothe, process their emotions, or work through their feelings in a healthy way. Instead of facing their emotions, they often react impulsively and destructively. They may lash out in anger, try to manipulate you into coming back, or use guilt and shame to make you feel responsible for their suffering. If these tactics don't work, they may engage in more manipulative behaviors, like covering, or even attempt to smear your name to regain control and save face. The narcissist's inability to cope with their emotions in a healthy way leads them down a path of continued manipulation, all in an attempt to regain what they lost. This inner conflict within the narcissist, triggered by the loss of someone who validated their ego, is often marked by self-destructive behavior. In an attempt to numb the pain, they may turn to substances, reckless behavior, or lash out in rage. On the surface, they may appear to have moved on quickly, perhaps diving into a new relationship or seeking another person to fill the void left by you. They may even act as though they are unaffected, using their new supply as a distraction from the hurt. But deep inside, they are still reeling from the loss, and nothing truly satisfies the emptiness that they feel. The narcissist may try to fill the void with anything they can, but the truth remains that no one can ever truly replace you or the validation they once derived from you. The narcissist's external behavior may suggest that they bounced back, but beneath the surface, they are struggling with the painful reality that their emotional needs will never be fully met. This inner turmoil continues to haunt them, but they will never openly acknowledge it, as it would expose the fragile nature of their sense of self. One of the most toxic and destructive cycles that a narcissist typically falls into after losing someone they once relied on is the process of devaluation. The moment a sense that someone is slipping away, that they may be losing their grip on the relationship, the narcissist will often react by trying to tear that person down in an attempt to regain control. This cycle is a crucial part of the narcissist's behavioral pattern, one that plays out like a broken record: idealization, devaluation, and discard. Initially, they may put you on a pedestal, seeing you as perfect, but once they feel threatened or perceive that you're no longer serving their needs, they will devalue you in a heartbeat. During this phase, they convince themselves, and often try to convince you, that you are unworthy of their time, attention, and affection. However, this devaluation isn't just an expression of their dissatisfaction with you. It's actually a defense mechanism they use to protect their fragile ego. The narcissist needs to engage in this devaluation process because admitting that you were ever valuable or important to them would force them to confront something they cannot face: their own vulnerability. If they were to acknowledge that you had real worth in their life, it would challenge their core belief that they are the center of the universe and that everything around them should exist solely to affirm their greatness. The very idea that someone could bring value into their life undermines their sense of superiority. If they were to allow themselves to truly see you as an equal, it would dismantle the delicate world they've constructed around their inflated self-image. And when you eventually leave, the narcissist may convince themselves that they never really needed you in the first place, telling themselves that you were just another fleeting presence in their life. But in reality, beneath their bravado and self-justification, they are in pain. They are deeply discouraged because they've lost someone who gave them something they couldn't easily find elsewhere, someone who validated their existence, fed their ego, and temporarily filled the emotional void they carry. This cycle of devaluation is never truly about you as an individual. Rather, it's a reflection of their own fear of abandonment and their inability to see anyone else as an equal partner. Narcissists do not engage in relationships based on mutual love or respect. Instead, they need someone who will endlessly feed their ego, validating them at every turn. And when that person is gone, the narcissist is left searching for something or someone to fill the immense void left behind. But the harsh truth they have to face, one they rarely acknowledge, is that no one will ever be able to replace you in the way they want. Your absence leaves an emotional gap that no amount of superficial attention or validation from new sources can fill. The pain they feel, while it may fade over time as they seek new relationships or distractions, will always linger just beneath the surface. Once a narcissist loses you, one of the first things they will do is attempt to regain control of the situation. This often involves a tactic known as hoovering, which is their way of pulling you back into their web of manipulation and emotional control. They may reach out with grand promises of change, guilt-trip you into feeling responsible for their pain, or offer apologies that seem sincere, but are ultimately self-serving. The narcissist's primary goal in this moment is not to truly reconcile or to show remorse. Rather, it is to get you back into their life so that they can once again feed off your validation. They don't want you to feel empowered, independent, or healed. They want you to feel as though they are the only person who can truly give you what you need. They want you to believe that you are nothing without them, and that the void in your life can only be filled by their presence. These attempts to hoover you back into their life are often met with resistance, especially if you've already seen through their manipulative behaviors and understand their patterns. But a narcissist is rarely one to give up easily. They will persist, sometimes becoming more aggressive, more persistent, or even more charming, until they've either worn you down or found a new target to focus their attention on. But no matter how much they push, no matter how hard they try to regain control of the situation, the underlying truth is that they can never truly replace the unique connection you once had. They may try to find someone else who will fill that void, but that person will never be able to replace you in the way they want. The narcissist will always suffer from the loss of someone who truly saw them for who they were, not the inflated image they present to the world, but the deeply insecure and fragile person beneath the surface. The pain of losing you never really leaves a narcissist. It may lessen over time as they find new sources of validation or distractions, but the wound remains. Their inability to form truly deep, meaningful connections with others means that every relationship they enter will be shallow, surface level, and transactional. The narcissist may find someone new to provide them with validation, but that new person will never truly meet their needs in the same way you did. The loss of someone like you, a person who understood them, who validated them, who gave them something they couldn't get anywhere else, will always haunt them. They are forever burdened by the fear that no one will ever love them the way you did. No matter how many new faces they bring into their life, there will always be a part of them that longs for the connection they lost. Ultimately, the narcissist's struggle with loss is a reflection of a much deeper, more profound issue: their inability to truly love themselves. They are always searching for something outside of themselves to validate their worth, to prove to them that they are worthy of love and respect. But because they lack the internal capacity for self-acceptance, they constantly need others to fill that void. When they lose someone who once provided them with this validation, it leaves them feeling empty, broken, and incomplete. Their ego may never fully recover from the blow and the scars of the past. Those emotional wounds caused by their fear of abandonment and their desperate need for control will follow them wherever they go. No matter how many new relationships they try to form, the emotional damage they carry will continue to haunt them, leaving them unable to experience true love or connection. Thank you for sticking with me as we explored why narcissists struggle so much to overcome the pain of losing someone like you. This is a complex and painful reality that narcissists must face, even if they never admit it. They may try to mask their hurt with new relationships or superficial connections, but the truth is that they can never truly heal. Their lack of self-worth and inability to form genuine emotional connections will always keep them in a cycle of suffering. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who may benefit from this insight. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced the pain of being discarded by a narcissist? And what did you learn from it? Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. They'll always suffer. Why narcissists struggle to overcome the pain of losing you. Have you ever wondered what happens when a narcissist loses their most prized source of admiration and validation? The truth is, they don't just move on easily. They never really get over it. In fact, when a narcissist loses someone they once controlled or admired, the pain they experience is much deeper and more profound than they would ever let on. The illusion of invincibility they project can't hide the emptiness they feel when they lose someone like you, someone who once fed their ego in ways they never realized. So, what happens when a narcissist faces this pain? Let's uncover the truth that's often hidden behind their mask of arrogance. In this video, we're going to dive deep into why narcissists struggle so much to overcome the pain of losing someone like you. You might have thought that they were capable of just replacing you or moving on without a second thought, but the reality is far more complicated and painful for them. Stick around until the end of this video to understand how their inability to cope with loss leads to a cycle of destruction for both themselves and everyone around them. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and share it with others who may be dealing with narcissists. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on the full picture of what really happens when a narcissist loses someone they rely on. Now let's get into it. When you first come across a narcissist, they often present themselves as highly confident, almost invincible. This image of self-assurance is a carefully crafted facade, a shield they use to protect themselves from the vulnerability they fear so deeply. Behind this mask of confidence, however, lies someone who is incredibly fragile